you're doing everything right. You are showing up, you are doing the parenting, you are doing the businesses, you are doing the meetings, you are doing everything. But you constantly still feel like you're overlooked in the rooms that you walked into. And it's not because of your credentials, it's not because of your resume, it's not because of any of that, honestly. It's because you forgot who you were when you walked in these rooms. And you let everything else completely diminish you of your actual value and identity. So today, we're going to talk about these 5 signals that are subtle, that are silent, but automatically help boost your value overnight. Because we've all been there in a room where we feel like, damn, do they think I'm enough? Or am I really enough? We start questioning ourselves. Well, these 5 signals have changed so much for me. And honestly, they will change for you too, overnight. It's not a sales tip. I'm not selling the book after this. But if you really listen to what I've got to say on these 5 signals, immediately will change the value that you bring into a room. And will allow those that you're walking into the room with see what you carry. Welcome back to The Business of Becoming. I am your host, Stephanie, and I help high-achieving people who feel alone at the top find peace, purpose, and the next version of themselves. And honestly, I just keep it real. And I'm very honest with my life and how I've gotten to where I am and this version of myself that's becoming right in front of you guys. So I have been that person. I have been that woman. And I don't know if it's because I'm a woman, but I'm pretty sure guys struggle with this too. But I've been that person where I'm like, man, why does it feel like they can't acknowledge that I deserve to be here? And this episode has kind of really been stirring in me because I was almost going down that route with everything that's been happening in my life. And I had to remember these things that I've done and these steps that I've taken to then say, hey, you know what? This is actually a pretty good episode to make for you guys, because even though we're at that midway point of this year, that everything you've worked for and everything that you have clawed your way to get deserves to be recognized, but that starts with you. And let's not let this year end the same way that it started. Or let's not let this year end the same way that the last 4 years of your life have ended. Let's rewrite your story now. You have 6 months till the end of this year to really start working on you and really just say, my New Year's, 2027, damn, I did a glow up, or I grew up mentally, because age has nothing to do with maturity. It's really just a number. It's the way you see yourself, the way you value yourself, so that others can see that too. Before we talk about those 5 signals that really shift that behavioral courage, I guess that you could say, or the behavioral attitude that you carry, which carries your confidence, carries your courage, carries your vulnerability. Before we start talking about those 5 signals, I want to talk about, again, and remind you guys of the identity gap. Because we go through it, and we have to constantly remember what this is and name that problem. Because that's when we start, letting all of these different things slip and stop taking care of ourselves, right? So again, I've said this before, but the identity gap, it is that space in between your vision, who you know you are, your confidence, your work ethic. It's that space in between all of that greatness that you are, because you are great. It's that space that goes from all of these things of who you are, your courage, the victories that you've had, your vision, everything that you carry, to who you're showing up as now, someone completely defeated and depleted of everything. So that space in between this powerful human being and this depleted individual is the identity gap. So what does that look like for you, right? What does that look like for me? For me, it was, yes, I know I'm great. Yes, I know I'm powerful. And it's not to just toot my own horn, but man, I know what I've built. I raised 2 toddlers. I'm in the thick of it. But as I was doing it, I built businesses. I've, made investments. I've done all these different things. I've led teams. I've traveled. I've, been a part of churches. I've done so many different things. But all in that time, that you kind of lose yourself is you managing, your work schedule, your kids' schedule, their summer camp schedule, church, anything that revolves around work, your employees, like all this stuff that happens, that you stop signaling to yourself, damn, like you're kind of a badass. And instead of coming from that root of like, man, I've been doing so much, I'm so proud of myself, you just start being depleted and you just start feeling like you're not enough. You start feeling as if though you're carrying too much and are not looking at the victories that, man, you did that or you're doing that. And then you get stuck in survival mode. And now you're not looking forward to your day. You're dreading your day. I mean, I've been in therapy and you guys already know this. This is out in the open. And I definitely recommend it to anybody who is, a parent, an entrepreneur, all these things, because, we go through a lot. We go through a lot in our lives. And we handle clients and we handle different, attitudes and behaviors. And if you're leading people, like people are super different. So you have to know how to talk to one individual, then talk to somebody else differently. And then clients are a whole different ballgame. And then you easily can lose yourself in all of this because you're just constantly surviving and trying to make it through this day. And I've had to realize that so much of the things that I've been doing out of survival. And I was doing out of survival mode. One thing that I remember, I went down a really bad spiral. And when I say I was down and in the dumps, I felt down in the dumps. I was, going through my divorce. I was going through all of these different things, because life changes and life's hard. And I remember, talking to my therapist and I was saying, man, I've worked so hard for all of this thing. And I just feel like things are slipping out of my hands and I can't control them, and I can, but I know the decision I'm making is going to cost me a lot of different things. It's going to change the environment for my kids. It's going to change what I thought was going to be my forever. And, then you try dating and that's a whole different thing because now everything is just focused on you, your kids, and it's a mess. And all I remember was when I was, talking to my therapist and I was just going over all of these things of kind of listing them as failures. She stopped me dead in my tracks and she was like, whoa, why don't we rephrase that and look at the good and look at what you actually did. Like, you actually had these 2 babies. You actually built this business. And yeah, it's hard right now, but you did that. You did that. You bought the house of your dreams. You did that. Now you got to say bye, but it's because you're making a decision that's better for you and your family. So if you did that once, why can't you do that again? You got to remind yourself that you are that person rather than the defeat that you can feel when your environment has to change because of the decisions that you're making that are good for you. So that can relate to whatever single mom is out there or single dad, or it can also relate to people who, you're making a transition for work. You're making a transition to leave the city. And you might feel like, oh my God, I'm losing everything that's mine and that was, that made me, that gave me identity. And now I'm making this like super hard pivot. Well, yeah, because growth requires change and requires you to be uncomfortable. And making hard decisions is literally the only way that you're going to be able to grow. It's the only way that you're going to be able to see, damn, I can do this, and gain that confidence back. So again, always going back to stop trying to live in survival mode. And if you don't know if you are, have you talked good about yourself? Have you been proud of yourself lately? Because if you haven't, then that's kind of a signal that you're living in survival mode rather than living in that mode of, okay, I can do this. If you haven't said anything good to yourself, then what are you saying to yourself? I bet it's not anything good. I bet it's some stuff that's pretty negative that really doesn't define who you are. It just is complaining about this moment in your life. And there's enough people that are going to hate on your life. Why are you being one of them too? We protect our clients, we protect our kids, we protect their schedule, we protect our team, we protect the environment that they're in, the office. But then we stop protecting ourselves, and we stop protecting the signals that are telling us, hey, you're operating out of survival mode right now. Hey, you're forgetting who you actually are. So as we get into reclaiming these behavioral signals that remind you how valuable you are, I want to have a number stick in your head, 55%. That number, 55%. This is research, okay? 55% of communication is actually nonverbal. What does that mean? That means that just the way you walk in, just the way you posture yourself, the way you handle yourself in front of somebody else without even opening your mouth, they've already made an impression of you. You've already communicated something to the room that you're walking into or to the meeting you're about to have, whether it's with your staff, with a client. 55% of that is just how you carry yourself. Self-improvement doesn't mean you have to add more. Self-improvement is just reminding those signals that you completely abandoned and reclaiming that value, reclaiming that energy, reclaiming that confidence that you're not performing, you're not pretending, but this is who you are. And this is how you carry yourself. Because again, you're not adding more by just fixing your posture. You're not adding more task or hardships to your life by being able to just present yourself well, standing up straight, and putting your head high. These are just little signals to remind your brain, I'm that bee. To remind your brain, I'm that girl, I'm that guy. All right, let's get into these 5 silent signals. The first one, which I think is probably the sexiest one, is the pause. The stop, the pause. Many people walk into meetings, let's put this more personal, right? You walk into a date. And sometimes you're just so nervous and you just start blabbering. Blah, 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 blah. Or you're in a meeting and you're trying to oversell yourself. So you start talking more and trying to prove that you know your stuff. But in reality, the more you're talking, a lot of the times the more you're losing. And this is in a bunch of sales books. The more you talk, the more you oversell, the more you look like a saleswoman or a salesman. The pause, it's kind of sexy. And it's not pausing because you don't know your stuff. It's pausing because you're letting your presence be known and you're letting your voice be heard. Because if you're just constantly talking, either one, you're going to get talked over, or two, you're going to be ignored because people don't really care to continue hearing you say the same thing. So if you pause, you now are creating a space for you to be heard. And you might know your stuff, which you should if you're going into a meeting, but now you're giving them like, hey, this is my time. Respect this. If you're being asked something or you're going somewhere, you're being expected. So go with that confidence and you can wait to say what you need to say. Okay, don't run over every conversation because that's just not smooth. I've done sales my whole life. It is not smooth. You can control a conversation, still giving you that moment to pause because it's respected. There's this former FBI body language, or body behavioral agent, Joe Navarro, and he said that the most confident people that he had to deal with took pauses. They were okay in the silence. Were those that chose to set the tone and say, I'm not afraid of this room. I'll answer, but I'm not afraid of this room. And I'll answer when I'm ready. And I'm not saying sit there in silence for 2 minutes. Please don't do that. I'm just saying, if someone asks a question, give them a second to want the answer. Give them a second to want to hear what you have to say. Because sometimes, too, if you hear, sometimes they're not even asking you a question. But because we're so in our head and we're just so ready to jump and try to prove that, we belong here, we got this, like, we miss the fact that they're not even asking us a question. And we miss the opportunity for them to even ask the question. And if you're on a date, like, wait for the guy to ask you the question. Ladies, sometimes he's just filling the gap and filling, the silence. And your pause is just like, okay, cool. Don't give up. Like, don't give up all of your information if someone doesn't even care to ask. Pause. Take a step back. Sip on your drink for a second. Let the desire for somebody to know you or want to know you come out. And if you're just blabbering and not actually giving yourself the second to be respected and take a pause, you're not going to force anybody to ask you the real questions. You're just a distraction. And you don't want to show up as that at work. You don't want to show up as that in a professional setting. Absolutely not. You're not. You're there to be respected and allow people to hear what you have to say. A signal of a high-value woman or a high-valued man is that they think before they speak. And that's what the pause really is. Think before you speak. And that's real hard. That's real hard for salespeople. That's really hard for entrepreneurs. That's really hard for people who have ADHD. It is hard. And I think every entrepreneur has a little bit of ADHD because we want to get stuff done. And especially we're parents, we want to get stuff done because we need to go. Right? But these high-achieving individuals, they understand the importance of thinking before you talk, thinking before you speak. And that honestly is a signal of someone's real authority. And it's a demonstration of their authority, in all honesty. It's not a sense of insecurity. So if you think, if you take too long to answer or too long to respond, like, obviously gauge yourself, like I said, right? You're not going to sit there for 2 minutes just staring at somebody. But you can take a second, take a breath, and organize yourself to say the right things. And again, a display of your confidence, a display of your authority. Signal number 2, how you enter a room. I said a little bit about it earlier. How you enter a room, that signal, it is so important. There's a research that they did in 2025 that said, those that automatically walked into the room with their head low and just kind of like, I don't belong here, they automatically had a prejudgment and a predetermination that they just weren't good enough to be here, and a display that they weren't good enough to be here. This research immediately talks about how the moment you do that, the moment you put your head down and your chin low, it reduces your power and increases your insecurities and your self-doubt. Once your chin drops and you put your head down, your body already goes into this like submissive mental place. Like you're already saying, I don't belong here, or somebody else has way more authority here than I do. I talked about, how to posture yourself earlier, because posturing yourself is a big deal, right? The way that people see you, 55%, again, that number is 55% of communication is nonverbal. So how you immediately walk into a room kind of already tells people what you carry, how much, what your value kind of is. Unfortunately, they do that. You could be the most successful person in the world, and if nobody knows you and you're walking in like that, there's already a predetermination that, you're just this insecure person. But this signal of how you enter a space isn't about just the way somebody sees you. It's how you feel when you walk into a room. Like your body, how you feel when you walk into a room. So you have to Put this in your mind, guys. The next time you're walking into a meeting, the next time you're walking into something important, okay? Pause, take a deep breath, straighten yourself out, put your chin high, just because mentally now you're forcing your body to not be in that submissive state. And you're forcing your body to remember, I carry confidence. And I can demonstrate that just by the way I walk in. And I promise you, if you do that, you're going to feel good. And if you're a lady, and this is super important, rock some heels, because that honestly helps you stand up straight. I'm not even kidding. Most of the times why I have to wear heels is because, one, I like it. I think it's beautiful. But two, it helps my posture. Signal number 3, the energy that you protect. And those who actually get to see you depleted. Now, this one's going to sting a little bit. This one might, ruffle some feathers. But many times, and I've done this, so I can speak from experience, many times we try to be relatable. And in being relatable, we share things that maybe can be relatable to a parent or to somebody who is going through something similar, but it's actually just showing you as somebody who's depleted and not somebody who can manage, right? So, give you a perfect example. Everybody knows when you have toddlers, the mornings are crazy. And trying to get into the office and trying to get them to school or summer camp or whatever the case may be, it's kind of crazy, right? So there's a way of being able to maneuver that in your professional life. And I've found myself here multiple times where I'm answering a call and I'm like, oh, sorry guys, it's been crazy. The kids are insane and blah, blah, blah. But, hey, what's up? How can I help? Or how can I get this done? And sometimes, yeah, you can be relatable and it works, right? But imagine if you're doing that constantly. Imagine if you're doing that to someone that you just recently started doing business with or that you just got as a client. And put yourself in their shoes, right? Put yourself as your client. And if you're calling the person that you hired and it's constantly like, oh my God, I'm so busy. Oh my God, sorry. Kids are going crazy right now, but yeah, I got this. Don't worry. If you include so much of your craziness and the life that we automatically have because it's normal, right? You're now showing that you're not able to manage. That's what you're demonstrating. So yes, your life can be crazy and that's okay because, hello, we're all here. We've been there. But protect that. Protect who gets to see you that way. And it's okay if it happens every now and then. It's fine because we're normal, we're human. But protect who gets to see you that way because at the end of the day, you still want to show up and you still are going to show up. You're still going to make that happen. You're still going to close that deal. You still are going to follow through. So maybe they don't need to know how you're following through. You could follow through in the middle of you doing a nap time routine or in the middle of you, telling your kid to get out of the shower or whatever the case is. Or some of you are going through heartbreak. Some of you are going through this or some of you are just going crazy, or some of you are trying to, party up at 11 till 5 or 6 in the morning, but you're showing up to work at 9 in the morning. Do you want to tell your clients that you're out there clubbing? No. First of all, don't. It's such a waste of energy. But either way, you need to protect your energy. And you need to protect how you are showing up and who gets to see that from you. This is about increasing your self-worth, right? So if you've already been doing business with somebody for a while and they've already seen that, you can handle this, you can manage that, then yeah, you can get personal with them and you can share with them a bit of your personal growth. That's fine. That's being relatable. That is just building off of the relationship that's already been established. That's something completely different. But if I'm starting to do business with somebody brand new, I'm not going to tell them how chaotic every day genuinely is. Even though many entrepreneurs, we already know it's chaotic. It's cool. It's fine. But again, you have to show up and you got to be there to show that you can manage this. All right, signal number 4, the way you talk about yourself in other rooms. This one is so important and it's so vital to your personal growth and it's so vital to reclaiming your authority because if you talk down to yourself in rooms with other people, if you talk down to yourself in general, just on a personal note, and we've been there and we can do that because we go down spirals and that's fine, but then you bring that out of that secret place and now you're sharing this in a room where you once led or once had influence, you are starting to diminish your authority and your power. Now, maybe you say, okay, well, Stephanie, I don't, talk that bad about myself, or I don't really talk about myself like that in these rooms. Okay, I'll give you an easy one. If you're in a meeting and you say, I just want to share something really quick, or I just want to, quickly just have this idea. That word just is a diminisher. Just automatically puts you as you're asking for permission. And if you are the leader, and if you are a manager, or if you are the entrepreneur, the CEO, whatever, you don't say these words. You don't say that. It kind of says that you are pre-apologizing for something. If you are in a meeting, you don't just say that. You don't, especially if it's your meeting. And if you are, another example is, I don't know if this makes sense, but you're automatically letting those around you question whatever you just tried to lay down. I don't know if this makes any sense. That right there automatically puts you as if you're questioning yourself, which then makes others question what you're actually going to say and what you're laying down. If you're saying, does this make any sense? Again, I'm not trying to be harsh, but I'm talking to you now as someone who has been a CEO for a while. Does this make sense? No. That's not a question that you ask as someone who's controlling this and, showing their authority in this moment. Whether you're a man or a female, doesn't matter. You rephrase it. What questions do you have? Don't make somebody question if you don't believe in yourself. Of course it makes sense. You've worked hard for it. Of course it makes sense to you because you've prepared. If it doesn't make sense to you, then don't lead that meeting. These are all small things that we juggle with. And it's not to make it like, oh my God, I'm a terrible leader. No, these are just things to take a mental note when you're trying to position yourself and show that level of authority that you carry. And this is self-improvement in action. It's not changing who you are and the role that you have. It is just reminding yourself that you don't need to ask for permission to do what you've been doing. And you need to remind yourself of these verbal habits that you've done, because we were all once employees and we were all once, under leadership. You have to remind yourself, oh, wait, now I am this person. I am this leader. And quietly, you can do that. So this week, I challenge you, pick one of these phrases. Does that make sense? Can I just have a quick moment here? I'm not sure if this works or if this makes sense. Pick one of these things and catch yourself. Please catch yourself so that you can see where you are underselling yourself in these rooms. That awareness alone is going to shift something in you. I promise. You don't need to buy the self-help book that I'm going to be making. I'm just kidding. But it's going to help you no matter what. Signal number 5, the response to compliments. This one I've talked about it a couple times because I think women are probably the ones that struggle with this one the most. We think that we have to be, humble, and if we're humble, we can't take credit for a compliment. Which I understand. I see how sometimes it could come off very arrogant or very, like prideful sometimes. I get it. But I want to challenge you, because what if you worked so hard on this presentation and you rocked it? You rocked this presentation, this meeting. And someone comes up to you and says, wow, you smashed it. You did a great job. And if you discredit yourself by saying, oh, it wasn't that big deal, it was okay, I struggled so much. If you automatically can't take credit for it, you are diminishing the work that you put, the work that cost you. You're diminishing all that you've done because you don't know how to take a compliment. This is a successful mindset, is shifting from, oh, I felt like it was messy. Sorry, I barely had time to do it. I was just, I did it in a rush. Successful mindset shifts that from, thank you, I worked very hard on that. It's simple. You killed it in that meeting. You did a great job, or you hit your numbers with sales and this, and people are going to tell you, wow, you did an incredible job. Yeah, I've worked really hard. Thanks. That's a great, elegant way to take a compliment. I've had to learn that, but it's a great way. Wow, you look great. Whatever you're doing is really paying off. Yeah, I work out a lot. Thanks. Not, oh my God, I'm still super fat. Like, oh, I have this baby weight. If you have kids, we all have the baby pouch. It's going to happen. Okay? Unless we get surgery, it's there. But anyways, take the compliment. You deserve it. You've worked hard for it. Take it. Remember, becoming the best version of yourself is not a one-way or one-day thing. It's not something that you automatically just wake up and change. Becoming the best version of yourself requires a daily practice. And the way that we daily practice these things is by looking at all these signals and being able to really add to our self-worth, because that's what happens internally, is adding to our self-worth when we can look at these signals and say, oh, I can definitely do this better. Because outside, if you're going to be taking a compliment and you know how to take one, now you're showing externally that you have self-confidence. But internally, you're showing that you're proving to yourself more that you actually have self-worth. All right, so we covered all of these 5 signals today. And again, I want to remind you, what's the point of these things? The point of understanding and now being aware of these 5 signals is not because you're going to overhaul your life overnight. No, but it's if you acknowledge these things in your life and you can really see these signals and start changing them, you will pull yourself out of survival mode and actually reclaim your identity and reclaim that self-growth that you've been desperately trying to seek. Because what is true is that you're not invisible. What is true is that you are worthy to be in these rooms. What is true is that you have been successful. What is true is that you've also failed. But what is also true is that those failures taught you something, and it taught you not to repeat the same things over and over again. It taught you how to learn to avoid that and become better and to grow from these things. So that's the truth. These signals are to remind you that, hey, you've got this. You are that individual. And trust me that I've had to do this multiple times in my life, including right now. And that's why we're having this podcast, because it's so vital to remember these little things on how I address a room, how I walk in, what does it say about me, how I can carry a conversation without having to be the first one to just automatically be rapid fire to talk, to give myself the grace to just take a pause and now reclaim that respect that I've earned. All of these little things are very minuscule. Again, they're not going to overhaul your entire life by night, but they're going to help you remember that you've got this, and that identity gap, you are still the person with that vision. You are still the person with those goals. You are still the person that is strong and that has made it through and that will continue making it through, rather than the person that's just stuck in survival mode. You are already a high-achieving woman. You are already a high-achieving man. What I talked about today, these 5 signals, are what's not just going to remind you, but now it's going to demonstrate to the room that you walk into. Because let me tell you, everyone can see someone who's confident and who's got this from a mile away. So how are you showing up? That's a wrap on today's episode of Business of Becoming. So many of my viewers, so many of the people who watch my shorts, I know you guys love this content, but you're not subscribed yet. So I would love nothing more to keep you guys in the loop for everything that's coming in this near future. So because of that, don't forget to like and subscribe, because I know this channel has done so much for me already and has done so much for so many other people that it really genuinely gets me excited for what's to come. So if you feel like you know somebody that would benefit from this message and that would benefit from this podcast, who walks in with their head low, who can't really reclaim that identity that you know they have, send this to them. Because sometimes we all just need somebody to remind us we've got the power. We just need to be reminded that we have it. So if that's you, or if you know somebody, send it over to them. I can't wait to see you guys in the next one.